This episode of Yo Adrienne Talks is sponsored by
Potential on Point, an executive and career coaching organization aimed at helping people who are navigating four critical pivot points in their career: hired, fired, retired, and inspired. Follow us at www.kelseywaldrop.com to learn more and find additional resources.
Good Monday morning, my peeps. This is Yo Adrienne Talks, and I am so excited, you guys. So there was this beautiful person that I met in college, and her and I just got along so well. We were such good friends, and life happens, right? Marriages, kids, the whole things, and we kind of hadn't talked in a while, and we just reconnected. So I am here with Kelsey Waldrop. I'm so excited, Kelsey, that you're here. Say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody, I'm Kelsey, and I'm super, super excited to be here. Adrienne and I had so much fun and continue to have fun every time we reconnect. So I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here. It's just crazy how life brings you full circle sometimes. And it was so funny because in college we were gonna do Jeep tours around Africa, right? Like that was our plan. We had big life plans and just love the energy. Kelsey is an amazing person. And she also does coaching now too. And I really wanted to bring her on because she has got some great ideas and she has her own podcast, Laid Off Life On. So Kelsey, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, I am a career coach. Actually, I'm a career strategist and a career coach. I work mostly with women who are they're anticipating or they're planning major changes in their career. And I always say women are like spaghetti and men are like waffles. Women are like spaghetti, which means when you change one thing, your whole life shifts. So a lot of my focus is on career, but it's really career and life coaching because you don't do your career without your life and vice versa. So I am extremely grateful just for a lot of the change that's happened in my life. I was an executive at Accenture, one of the big four strategy consulting houses. I was laid off last year after 22 years. But the amazing opportunities to become a podcast host, to be I call myself a free range mom, which means I believe I'm raising extremely capable people, and I'm not a helicopter. I'm a very free range mom, and I'm also a newlywed. I've been married about 18 months to my husband Alex. So we've done divorce, we've done marriage, we've done layoffs, we've done startup podcasts. I love change. I embrace change, but it's not an easy thing, and that's where my passion is helping others navigate those interesting times in their lives.
That's so awesome because it is true. I mean, without change, things can't be different and better, but sometimes it's not easy to go through. So I love that. Absolutely. And I know we kind of talked a little bit together when we were chit-chatting like pre-recording just about keeping yourself looking at what's important to you and what's going on with you versus kind of looking out. And so I loved your input on this. So I would love for you to share with my listeners a little bit of how your journey went and why this is so important for you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the time that we are in, there is noise. There's so much noise around us, and social media. There's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's TikTok, and we're just over inundated with what everybody else is doing. And one of my biggest passion points, it's my favorite podcast episode I ever did, is called Thoroughbreds Run with Blinders. And in the Kentucky Derby, horses have blinders on the side of their face so that they cannot look around at what all the other horses are doing. And if you think about it, it's where the term stay in your lane comes from. Because if you cannot stay in your lane and stay focused on the goal that you have in front of you, your path, your journey, you turn your head to the side. Number one, you slow down. Number two, you go off path. If you think about if you're driving your car and you look over your shoulder, you automatically pull the steering wheel whichever way your head's looking. So you're not staying and focused on the thing that's in front of you. And in horse racing, if you look to the side and you stumble and you trip, you're going to be stampeded by other horses. I mean, it's a potentially fatal thing. So if you think about that as you're navigating towards a big goal, a little goal, career, relationship, weight, financial, whatever it is, putting on the blinders to say, it is great what everybody else is doing, but how does it serve me? What purpose does it give me to look at what anybody else is doing? and you'll start to find there's really not much. And so I am really big on comparisons kill joy, they kill
Hmm.
motivation, and they are literally an energy drain from the tank that we need more than ever when we're stretching for something. And we need to keep that energy on ourselves. So thoroughbreds run with blinders means avoiding the landmine. I call them landmines. I say landmines and gold mines. Avoiding the landmines of comparing ourselves to others.
So I love that. I love all of your analogies there, but the one that like kind of, so I'm teaching my daughter to drive. So your whole
Oh,
like, when she would look to the left, like her hands would start steering. And I was like, no, 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 we have to keep our hands straight. So I love that your analogy there because I'm literally going through this as we speak right now. So I think it's so interesting though that we all do that, right? Like it's amazing how Facebook is or any of them is such a time drain, right? Like you just scroll and you're looking at everybody else and what they're doing when you could be doing something in that time you're scrolling, correct? Is like that's kind of what yeah. So I would love to know like how you have used that in your life and ways that it's helped other people that you've worked with.
yeah, absolutely. I think number one is just being aware. How much am I actually spending time looking at what anybody else is doing? And there's a purpose to social media. It keeps us connected in a very unconnected world, and it creates networking relationships, and that's networking is your net worth. And I desperately believe that when it comes to anything, and so it's important to be connected and to nurture those relationships. So, right, what is the purpose of what I'm doing? It's to nurture relationships, it's to make connections. Great. Once that purpose has been served, it's time to move on. And so I think one is being aware, how much time am I spending on there? Where do I get lost? Where do I plan to go to do one thing and I go to do another? And then, and this I think one of the things that I don't know, I do a lot, I've seen a lot of my clients do, which is if you actually put everything on an hour by hour schedule of what you expect you're going to complete today, you will have like 3 days worth of shit on your list. Like most women think that they can do, and they can, but there's so much more. And so putting some time in there that actually says, here's my social media time. And I was like, oh, I don't have time to put 30 minutes on my calendar. We just spent 4 hours and you didn't realize it. So knowing that you've got time to connect, knowing that you've got time for that purpose, being intentional, and there's a key word there, like being really intentional, and then coming back off of it and noticing how you feel when you come off of it. Like, do you feel lost? Do you feel disconnected when you're not keeping up with everything? That kind of tells you where, how strong those feelings are about how much you need to be on there. And again, change is about information. How do I get more information so that I can accelerate the change that I'm going through? Even if it doesn't, you don't think that you're changing your behavior, those incremental learnings and additional information, you can't unknow something once you know it. And so that awareness is so key when you're trying to make a change or you're trying to say, I'm just going to focus on me, and keeping track of the wins when you do that.
Yes.
Like, what did I get done because I did this? So I think just both information and celebrating the wins, no matter how small they are.
So I love that too, because as like life goes on, right? Like you said, it is so easy to get lost. Like we were actually just talking about this yesterday, how you go into a room and you're like, what was I going to do? And then you go sit back down in the other room and you're like, oh, that's what I got up to do. Right. Like our brains are constantly going. And I mean, in the world that we're in right now, right? Information overload, like constant. I mean, squirrel,
Yeah.
squirrel, squirrel, right? Like, and I'm one of those. Like, I'm like, oh, shiny object. What's happening over there? So I think it was so interesting when you said monitoring that and building it in because you're doing it anyway. And when people try to say, oh no, I don't have time to do social media, like you said, they probably are on there 4 hours. I know another thing that really helped me was if I got on social media, I had to be commenting every few posts. So, because for me, it was like I'd get on there and just do this mindless scrolling. And like you said, then I'd get off and I just didn't do anything for 30 minutes. Right. And if
Yep.
you really want to rest your mind, go sit outside or go, relax in your bed or meditate or something. Don't just scroll Facebook when you have time that you want to. Cause I always looked at it like that, like, oh, social media is my like, relax time. You're not relaxing. Like you said, you're looking at what other people are doing and your mind is going like crazy. So it's not really relaxation time either.
Exactly. Which goes to the intentionality. Why are you there? Are you there to mindlessly scroll? Great, set a timer. The timer goes off, the mindlessness is done. If there's interesting things, there's save functionality. So I use LinkedIn's kind of my big, social media, because LinkedIn is very social. Like I joke that LinkedIn has an identity crisis that it needs to figure out, like, am I social media? Am I a job posting board? Am I a content king? Like, who am I? And so LinkedIn in particular for me can just be like a time suck and an energy suck. And so what I've started doing is saving articles, saving posts, saying I will come back to this later. And then when my timer goes off, it goes off. Well, then the next time the timer comes on, do I want to go back to those things? Were they that important? Or do I want to keep, going forward? And so I have to make a decision, but at least I'm intentional about it.
Yeah. And I like that too, because so many times, like, right, there are constantly amazing articles, right? Anything you look at, like, I love podcasts, I love awesome articles, but I've had to start setting a time frame on that too, because I'm like, listen, I can listen to other people talk amazing things all day, but if I'm not taking action, right, like, we're not going to go anywhere. So I love that timer, or setting aside a time that's like, hey, this is going to be my learning time. So I'm going to take 30 minutes at this time of the day where I can just listen to a podcast or I can just do whatever it is, because I love that when you're saving it, because then when you have time, you're going to go back, you're going to look at the things that you had and go, which one do I actually want to do, versus like, oh, I should be working right now, but I'll read this article instead.
Absolutely. I really like what you said too about, like, when you are on social media, am I scrolling or am I interacting? Am I making a connection with what I am reading? Because I think that is so, so important. If you look again, what is the purpose for which I'm on social media? It's to connect, it's to network, it's to share ideas, it's to connect with friends. And I don't know about you, but like I get excited about a level 3 when somebody likes something that I did. I get excited about a level 7 or 8 when somebody comments. It means you took the time. It means you took energy to respond to what I was talking about. And that is a very different feeling than like. So I know when I feel that way, that's something that I want to reciprocate. And it really does matter. It's not just the quality of interaction, it's the quantity. It's really the quality of your communications and your connections. That's what gives it purpose to be there.
Well, and it's so smart when you say that, why are you here? Because obviously the reason you're on social media, most likely if you have a business, which most of you are female business owners, that's who we're talking to. So of course, your purpose of being there is to create some sort of connection, or, just to keep up with someone or to know your clients better, whatever it is. So if you're not interacting, those people fall off of your, your feed too. So if you're not interacting with your clients, like you said, if you're just mindlessly scrolling, you're not going to create that relationship or keep that visual of them and their visual of you on social media as well.
I'm going to look at one more gold mine, and then, which is, so here's a sales model to think about, right? Which is when you sell and sell comfortably, you give, you give, you give, and then you ask. And so when you're using social media for business, there are so many opportunities to find, where can I give something to somebody? Can I reshare a post? Can I respond to a question that they have? Can I make a connection between two people that I know that will help them? And when you get into this generosity, right, leading with generosity, it is so much easier when you've made 3 deposits to take 1 withdrawal and to make an ask, for a sale or for a reference or for whatever it is. And so if you look at social media, again, why are you here? 3 gifts. What 3 things can you give to that person? And social media is a great opportunity to do that. It's going to increase your confidence, your credibility, and your ability to do whatever business that you want to do with that person.
Oh, that's such a great point. And also, doesn't it always feel good when you connect to people who like can help each other? It's the best feeling in the world. I always love that. I'm like, oh, wait, this person could totally help you. And it just feels great, right? That you can do that.
Yes.
So I love that you call it your generosity bank. That's awesome.
And as women, we're hesitant to take withdrawals out of that. And so I do think that's really, really important, is you have to be comfortable taking a withdrawal if you're going to be successful. And it's hard. to do that sometimes. So I just want to kind of acknowledge that that's a tough part about being a woman business owner, is being ready to take that withdrawal, but also know that you've paid in and you deserve it.
Right. And I think that's a big part is like when you think about you're connecting people, right, to help each other. Well, then when it's your turn to ask, you're still helping them. I mean, that's still you being able to help someone. And I think it's so interesting how, like you said, females, especially, I'm not saying males don't, but we have trouble recognizing our worth and knowing that we're still doing it from a place of, I want to help you. We get this like barrier of, oh, I'm asking for something. I like, I see this a lot in direct sales as I'm coaching when people are like, oh, well, I asked them to do me a favor. I'm like, no, no, no. You're doing them a favor. You're giving them a product or something that's going to help them. And they're sharing that with people. Just like I always use, like, if somebody says, like, what's a good movie you went to see? You tell them. Like, it doesn't affect, and so I think really working, I love that you say if you give, then you're allowed to do that. It might be a really good way for women who struggle with that, knowing that they're still offering, when they're offering their product or service, it's still helping someone, obviously, or they wouldn't want it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the more ways that you can provide value to somebody else, it's no longer a sales conversation. Because I'll tell you what, sales has been very hard for me. Like I'm a phenomenal coach. I'm so confident in what I do. I get to a point to try to tell somebody that value, and it's really hard. It's so much easier if I've demonstrated value to them multiple times. Then I'm not having to explain or sell. They know what I can do. They know the connections that I can make. They know how much I'm in it with them. And it makes those very difficult conversations so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, and that's so true because that's all you want is to create those relationships. So knowing what's happening in their world, like you said, and this is even part of what you were saying about keeping your blinders on. It doesn't matter who else is talking to them about whatever else. Like, this is your relationship. I learned this a lot in life coaching too, is like you said, everything plays into each other, your business, your home, all of that. And it is about your individual relationships. And so many times we try to put relationships like all together. And it's like, you know what? I have a relationship with my son, my daughter, and my husband, and they are all different. They're all beautiful. And we interact a lot together, but we still have these individual things. And so as you're connecting with people, think of it that way. Like, this is your beautiful relationship with this person, and you might be able to help them. And maybe your product or your service won't help them, but they also know people because they're giving into this bank, right? They're giving into this bank. So you might be that person that they're going to be like, hey, let me connect you with somebody because I think you could help them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there is a short, medium, and long-term game to be played. And I think some people get frustrated that initial connections don't make automatic, revenue or sales. But when you continue to invest in those relationships, I mean, I've got a spreadsheet, right? And I write down when their kids' birthdays are, what baseball team their kid plays on. Because when I talk to them, I say, oh my gosh, they ended up winning the World Series last week. And they feel seen
Yeah.
and they feel connected. And that is what converts opportunities to tangible income for you at the end of the day. That's how it is. And there's actually a great old book Dale Carnegie wrote, how to win friends and influence people.
Right.
And it is the original. I mean, I think this is like the 1930s. He gives these really old examples. But he really just talks about, like, how do you connect so people feel seen and valued? And that's how sale of any product. And again, doesn't matter who they're talking to. It's your relationship one-on-one. I love that point. I wrote that down. It's a great point.
Well, it is. And I think the influencing people, like you were just saying, it's so that, that moment that someone's like, oh, hey, she actually took the time to make sure I'm okay, or to check in on my kid or whatever it is. I mean, like what we were just saying, all these social media platforms, life in general is throwing things at you nonstop. Right. And so when somebody takes a minute to be like, oh, I actually cared enough to remember it's your birthday, or I cared enough to check in on you and see if you're doing okay, it means a lot, because so many people don't do that anymore. And we use a lot of this, social media, hiding behind the keyboard. And you have to remember, we are a social being. Our whole purpose as humans, like, that is what we are driven by, is connection. And so when people feel disconnected, then they have no reason to want to call you or give to your bank, right? Like your generosity bank.
Absolutely. And there's a likability factor. People buy for people they like.
Right.
And so being likable and I love this saying, it's from Dale Carnegie's book. If you want to be interesting, be interested. Be interested in other people. That is what makes you interesting to them. I love when people ask about me. I get so excited because I spend every day talking about everybody else. That means something to me when somebody remembers something or wants to talk about something that I'm doing. So you think about how it makes you feel, and that's a gift that you get to give to somebody else. That could be the highlight of their day, is that they feel seen because you remembered, you made a connection. And by the way, whenever they need whatever it is that you're selling or buying, you are the first person, and it is not going to be a tough sell. That is where business generation time after time comes from.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I just love everything you're saying because it's the way of the world, is that we all want to feel that moment of being seen and being heard. And I think we all ask, "Oh, how are you today?" And people just go, "Good." But when you're like, "Oh, really? Why?" All of a sudden they're like, "Oh, wait, you wanted an actual answer." And I think so many of us have been taught these surface level answers in this very like, "Oh, people don't really care. I'm just supposed to, answer the basic question." And how wonderful is it when you're talking to somebody and they do give you the truth and they give you the full, like, "Oh, I'm really excited about this," or "This was pretty hard on me this week." Because then you're like, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that was all happening. How can I help you?" You know what I mean? It's like when you push past those basic surface level answers and really, like you said, see someone, you're interested in someone, like you said, because so many people don't really take the time to be interested.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I use it in interview coaching. When people are going to interviews, like, how do I prep for the interview? I'm like, you ask questions, you act interested in the role and the value that you bring. It is not about you. The interview is not about you. It is about that person sitting across from the table deciding that you are likable and qualified to do the job. Every answer needs to be tied to them every time. And it's the same. You are selling yourself in an interview. You're selling yourself in direct sales. You're selling yourself in coaching. Life is a sales process. So
Yep.
you're negotiating with your husband for who's going to take out the trash. That's a sales process. All of these things. It is
I,
a skill that will serve you again and again.
that is what I always tell people when they're like, "Oh no, I can't do sales. I don't like sales." I'm like, did you get married? Because if you got married or you ever had a job, you sold yourself. I mean, because even like when you're meeting someone, you are like, "What are you like? Does what I like and you like mesh?" You know what I mean? It's so
Yes.
funny how that all like goes together in that whole process. So I love that.
Spaghetti. Life is spaghetti.
I know. I think that's such a great analogy too, because you don't realize that like when you move one noodle, a bunch of noodles go with it. I absolutely love that analogy because I think we all men can just compartmentalize so much easier. And I've really tried to work on that because, right, like if one thing goes wrong in your life, you don't need to let it affect everything, but women struggle with that a little bit more, right?
Oh yeah. The noodles move, the sauce flies, and it's red, and it's a mess. And that's okay, right? And so, the people that I see most successful in change, they anticipate it, right? They plan for it. It might not look like plan A, it might be plan B, C, or D, and they move. They do something just a little bit different. So when the spaghetti turns and the noodles don't look the same, right? Okay, I was expecting maybe something could change. I've got to, let me figure out how I'm going to reframe this, replan this, and I'm going to move. I'm not going to stay stuck where I am. Those are the people that are successful at change, that are successful at transformation, and they make big things happen.
And it's so true that the change might not be exactly what you think it's going to be, and it might not look the way you think it's going to look, but that's part of the open-mindedness too, of like, you've got to be open to knowing that change is going to happen, and you might not know what to do. You might have to try 5 different things to get it to work. And that's not always easy, right? Because you kind of want to give up after try one, just like you said with contacting people. You connect with them once and you think it should work, but what's the average? I mean, I think they say the average is 7 times you need to connect with someone before they trust you and start to feel like you've created that relationship. So, when change happens and you just try one thing and it doesn't work, you still have 6 more things you gotta try.
Yes, yes. And badge your social media. There's your opportunity to interact. That counts as the 6. If it is quality feedback, comments, be interested, that counts. That's why that social media can serve a purpose if you're intentional about it and you keep your blinders on.
I totally love that. I mean, and I love the keeping the blinders on is so important because, like I said, this world in our society is constant. It's just, you can find yourself distracted in a hot second. I mean, with notifications on your phone and your screen and dings. And
yes,
I mean,
yes, we can have a whole conversation about that one.
Isn't it true? I remember when I was younger and you would go somewhere, right? And you need to get a hold of your mom. And it was like, oh, we're going to have to find a payphone or something to try to call home. And then hopefully she's home. Right. And now it's like, you send a text and if you don't hear back in seconds, I've had my daughter ping my phone because she like texted me and I didn't answer back. And I was like, whoa, you got to give me a minute.
Slow your roll.
Yeah. It's a whole different society that, like, you know, you have to learn how to, like you said, put your blinders on and tone that down, or you're never going to get anything accomplished. Right.
And you said something really important there. You have to turn it off. Nobody's going to turn it off for you. Nobody is going to give you a permission slip to turn it off. That's just not the way it works. So that is a very scary, but also very empowering thing. You have the choice. But that means you also have the choice. You have to make it. It's not easy.
And holding yourself to that, you know, that when you make the choice, I'm not going to scroll Facebook so much, I'm only going to do it at this time, that you actually hold to that. And sometimes it's removing the app from your phone or turning on do not disturb or whatever it is you need to do to keep that focus. So, well, I've loved all of these tips. It's been so fun talking to you and reconnecting. I just love you.
I love you.
I know. I'm so happy we got to just catch up, and I love your podcast. It's so great for women that are just wanting something different or were forced into something different. Right. But I would love for you. I always ask my guests, if you could give, you know, my listeners one piece of advice, what would it be?
I mean, one piece of advice is, and it's my hashtag. It's called "Fear is a Liar." And so, for every story that you are telling yourself, and I've had a drawing of my fear monster. He looks like a sunburned leprechaun that lost his gold. When I'm telling myself a story, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm bad at sales. You know, I'm never going to be able to do this. I should stay small. I don't have time. Like, I look at my little ugly fear guy, and I know he lies. Like, fear is a liar. And so I just, even being conscious of that and just knowing that the stories that you're telling yourself, it's fear, and fear hates light. So putting it out there. That is my biggest thing. Put your fears out there. Get a coach, get a friend, get a mentor. Talk about the things that you're afraid of. Shed some light on that. It's going to get smaller and you're going to move on. You can do big and amazing things when you can reframe those stories in your head.
And I love that, because those stories are just stories we tell ourselves, and nothing there can't be changed. And you almost gave me goosebumps thinking about looking at something and being like, yeah, no, you don't, I don't have time for you. Right. Like, and fear is, we don't even realize it's there when we're when we're saying those things. When we say, like, I'm not in sales, that's not truth. That's just, you're afraid of something. So the easiest way to refute it is by saying you can't do it, or you're bad at it, or it's hard, or it's impossible. Everything is possible. You just have to reframe those thoughts. So I love that. That is great advice. And I might have to go find my own monster. I might ask you to send me a picture of yours so I can.
Yes. He's ugly.
I love it.
He's a liar. He lies to me all the time. Oh, such a lie. Oh, such a lie.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Hey, this was fun. This was so fun. And we'll have to do it on my podcast or your podcast again. And let me know how I can help you.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. And you guys, you know, come to the Facebook group. Kelsey will be in there if you have questions for her. Like I said, I'll probably post a picture of her monster too. So I'd love for you to connect on there. Any questions you have for her, pop on there. But you guys, you know, until next week, when Adrienne talks, realize the power is within you. Hey, you guys, you know, my passion is helping females live their true ideal life, not to let anyone else determine their dreams, how they will achieve them, or what they really want out of life. That is for you to decide. And I would love to help you with that journey. So if you text Kickstart to 314-333-6063, you will get my latest freebie. And I have special pricing for April only on coaching one-on-one with you. So let me help you realize power within you to create your ideal life.